Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, and a beautiful start to a brand new week, actually, as Bitcoin does confirm the weekly closure above the critical areas that we were looking for yesterday. More importantly, it is following through with CME's closure that we saw on Friday already, so I want to be following up on that. Other than that, I want to put the folks over here in the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krowngene.net, and what do we see? We see open interest actually crawling up a little bit from yesterday to today, almost 100 million on the board as Bitcoin price actually floats sideways and slightly up within a nice little tidy range. And what does that suggest? So a nice healthy consolidation within this region. Bitcoin dominance still hanging around that 62.5% region, technically a little bit up from yesterday to today, which is very interesting to me because we would expect, based off historical rotational markets, that when Bitcoin is more or less sideways, which I would say this is very much sideways, for Bitcoin at least, being like $1,000 range, that is. But altcoins are really not benefiting from that, which is rather interesting. So we should actually check out some of the altcoin Bitcoin bearings. And fear and greed index also popping down 1 point from a 95 to a 94, which is going to be shown in the data tab over here in the fear and greed index. As you do see that we've once again brushed up against the highest of high reads at a 95. That was on, I believe, Sunday, and now coming down just 1 whole point, of which still looking at this as a little bit of a warning signal in the back of my mind's eye. But this is not good enough in and of itself to be like a full-on warning signal. We've certainly seen an extremely greedy read for actually over a month now, quite literally over 1 month as of today. So with that in mind, it's still a warning signal, but it's not an actionable signal in the way that I look at it. Looking at the funny rate here as well, same thing. We do see the deception of the graphs, but more importantly, is this anything out of the ordinary? No, it's very much revealed when you look at Bybit, BitMEX, Huobi, Binance, and for the most part, and basically everything else actually as well. We're not anywhere near the critical zones as it is just yet. Above 0.1%, yeah. Then we got something to talk about. Or sorry, did I say 0.1? Yeah, 0.1. There we go, 0.1. That's what I'm looking for. Anyways, more importantly with that, we did see that read last week, which actually did notify us of the local high just below 20,000 bucks before Bitcoin did take about a $1,500 stumble, which now, as Bitcoin kind of grabs itself up, we do see this come back to parity. So I still don't really see anything major. I don't see any major canaries in the coal mine, all jokes aside. And apologies if I do look onto my other screen quite a fair bit here. I actually just got like a vertical screen now, so I can be cool like all the other YouTubers that have their Discord just all on it. But I have my my recording stuff over there. So if anything's weird on this one, please let me know in the comment section below, because I can probably fix it up. As anytime that you apply something new, who knows what the fuck's going to happen. Anyways, going to the actual price of charts themselves. But before we do that, I should say that I'll very likely be on Twitch today, just doing a little bit of hangout. I imagine that there might even be some exciting Bitcoin price action today too. So hopefully we can capture a little bit of that. What else do I want to say? Discord, if you want to join Discord, you're more than welcome to. It's free and available to anyone who can find their way in there from the link below. That is a big if though, because apparently getting through the Discord security bot is quite the endeavor. I have made a video on documenting how to get through that. It's the channel video for this channel, meaning that if you're subscribed to this channel, it's just the one that automatically plays if you're on the channel homepage. Okay, cool. All right. Anything else that I want to talk about? Yeah, the the reverse MACD video is up. Credit to Caretaker for creating the indicator for that. Of course, it's just a reverse indicator, so that is, I don't want to make it sound like he thought of this idea, as that can always cause some commotions. But Johnny Doe putting it into writing priorly, and then he was able to put it into code, which is awesome. So it's there for you, and it's 100% free, and more importantly, it's open source. So if you're a coder yourself, take advantage of it, because that's what he did it for. Anyways, over here on the secondary charts, which is quickly becoming my primary charts now when things are trending, what did we see yesterday that was significant? We did see a clear and clean closure of the topside Toronto band on spot. So not only did we see it on CMEs, which was confirmed on Friday, spot falls through as well, and actually with a nice little more of a healthy dildo here too, I would say. And while this would suggest that yes, we are going to get further continuation on to the upside, probably even this week, probably do try for an actual run towards 20,000 bucks this week, seeing as there's really not much space between our last prior high at 19,918 on Stamp and the $20,000 tick. I would still be looking at this as a range and potentially looking for a backfill on last week's open, but I would be looking at that first and foremost as an opportunity or a potential opportunity. So I actually want to mark this area off going onwards and forwards here, because at the very least probably does offer up a nice little scalp opportunity. And I also want to see what other confluential factors we can find down there, as typically these areas do get retested. Not always, but it's still kind of the same analysis that I've been having for like the last week and a half. The question is, how far does Bitcoin pull back before continuing to the upside? All higher term timeframes are bullish, have we been saying. And the higher term time frame that we go, the higher the time frame that we go, the more and more, well, good that it looks. In this, we can start off with the daily right here, uptrend, good. Go to a 2-day right here, uptrend, also good. 3-day, uptrend, also pretty fucking good, with no pullbacks, by the way. Weekly, same thing, trending above the top side Toronto bands. We go to the monthly after that. Monthly obviously had the highest of high all-time closures coming into this month. And by the way, now we have the highest all-time weekly closure, I do believe. Bi-monthly, same thing, and quarterly is going to have a chance to close above the top side Toronto band in the same way that the bi-monthly has as well, or will as well. And that just makes me bullish for moves into the $20,000 region, probably into quarter one of 2021. In fact, I do think that that's going to be a likely very eventful time for this price action. So with that in mind, I also want to go through a little bit more of a deep dive here while we are on the higher term timeframes. We'll get to the lower term timeframes soon enough as well, but I do think that this is kind of more or less appropriate right now, as Bitcoin is essentially brushing up against the prior all-time high. So first off, let's confirm that we actually have the highest all-time weekly closing high. Okay, obviously we do, because that last one was 18,950, and this one over here is 19,380. Okay, that's a clean higher high right there. Yes, so now we're closing on higher highs on the monthly. Now it's on the weekly as well. Good. Usually it's the other way around, but fair enough. Anyways, speaking towards the long-term health of this, again, I want to be very fucking clear, and I hope that I've been very fucking clear. Bullish on the higher term timeframes. Not really anything kind of taking me away from that right now. However, as Bitcoin does approach its prior all-time high, which we can say was 19,606. Actually, to be fair, on Stamp, it actually made new all-time highs last week. Let's see, what about GDAX right here? 9891. We got up to new all-time highs on GDAX as well. What about our BitMexico? 20,093. Okay, you got it. What the fuck? We already have new all-time highs. Jesus Christ. Well, actually, no, technically not on BitMex, but on the other exchanges, the spot exchanges, it does look good. What about Finex as well? 891 prior high, and this one 956. Yep. So the odd man out is BitMexico, and I would say that the other exchanges do accurately represent, on average, that Bitcoin actually has gotten to new all-time highs anyways. Okay, so what I want to do now is actually want to look at, historically speaking, what happens when Bitcoin does get into a blue sky breakout. Now, coming from my background in traditional markets, typically speaking, when you do see a blue sky breakout, you get more blue sky breakout. You keep on breaking out. You keep on fucking moving for a while, because you're in price discovery, and there's really no, opposing force for that. An object in motion tends to stay in motion until it acts upon by an outside force, meaning until you see a fucking reversal, just be bullish. It's basically my disposition. It's not anything too scientific here, but let's just see how that's operated with Bitcoin in the past. Let's go all the way back to actually BLX index, because it's going to have the most price action history. Let's take off the Krown bands for this, because they're just going to be annoying. And let's see what happens. So we see the first kind of debut right in over here. This was July 2010. Bitcoin puts in a high at about almost a tenth of a cent at 0.09. Let's just mark this area off really quick, something like this. And what do you know, when it breaks it about almost a year later, about half a year later, immediately just fucking green dildos this way up. Yes, it does have a few pullbacks here, minor pullbacks to the 9 exponential moving average, it looks like, but this is more or less unabated, just melt to the upside of about 450%. Then it puts in its next major high right here on the weekly, a little bit of a short-term reversal, yes. However, just setting in higher lows, and then what do you know? Let's mark off the next area right here. This one, by the way, for reference, was 35 cents. And someone actually did ask to move this scale to the left. I'll do that right now. There you go, sir. Anyways, breaks this high right here as well. New weekly closing high, boom, move right there. Same thing right here. What do we have once again? We have yet another high move, and we close on new highs right here, and then absolute fucking melt to the upside once again. So I actually do want to measure some of these out. So the first one was about 400%. This one was about 200%. This one 2900%. Wow, pretty damn nice. And then we got our first actual reversal on the weekly, getting lower lows and lower highs all at the same time. Let's mark off this area as well and see how this one does. This one had a ripe old price of about 19 bucks, and once it actually breaks it over here on its first weekly closure above, melt. And what do we see? We do see yet again another absolutely fucking humongous move, 1,300% up to our $300 price point right here. We can do the same thing right here, of course. Let's just use bodies, and then once again, what do we get? We get a slight closure above, and then another melt phase for Jesus fucking Christ, 623%. And I believe this is starting to get into 2013, 2014. Yes, indeed it is. So we have like an actual reversal there for a long time. And let's first off mark off this next all-time high right here. There we go. This one at 969. Let's see what happens when Bitcoin breaks it over here. So here we actually have the first example of it breaking it on a full weekly closure and then massive nuke down. However, sorry, let's actually put a number on this. For example, top to bottom, wick to wick, we're talking about a 35.5% move right there, but that just set in a higher low. Ultimately, my point is this was just yet again another opportunity. The breakage of the prior all-time high was a bit of a fake out. It was used to grab liquidity before, well, before the next few months, which just absolutely, well, I guess the next couple of years actually absolutely just fucking green dildoed its way to the heavens right there. Almost 2,000% move to the upside. So fair enough. And then once again, Bitcoin is, as you can see right here, actually breaking above and closing on new all-time highs for the weekly. BLX is not going to show this because it's one day late, but we can go back on over here to stamp, and we certainly do see that. So here's my point. Yes, can Bitcoin pull back? Sure. Yeah, if it really wants to, it can pull back. It can pull back as much as it wants. Bitcoin could do whatever the fuck it wants. However, I would be looking at this as a long-term opportunity. The direction is very much set. I mean, we've been saying this for the last couple months, ever since the break of 11,500 right here. That was the big one. And once again, we have our next major historical or last historically relevant area, to be fair, being broken with the advent of yesterday night's closure on Sunday. So with that in mind, I am generally bullish here, and really just any sort of pullback that I do see, whether it be down to, last week's open, or even if Bitcoin were to pull back down to like the mid $16,000 region, those are completely acceptable for myself because I'm essentially looking for one of those long-term longs once again, as I have been for the last week and a half. But patience, not so much of a virtue this time actually, as Bitcoin getting more and more aggressive over time. So with that in mind, let's go into the low-term timeframes over here and see what we can mop out. And as it stands right now, looking at the 4-hour four spot price action, let's go over to our GDAX chart, as that's the one that we've been working off of. This is actually starting to shape up to be a little more of an ascending triangle in the short term. We have higher lows going on right here, kind of, sort of. I mean, it's not the most like symmetrical of them, or sorry, not symmetrical, but actually, do we have higher lows right here? Let's see, closing 627, closing 658. Yeah, technically speaking, by about 30 bucks. Not bad, but fair enough. Anyways, my point is that is it reaccumulating at a very high level right here, aka a lot more bullish sooner rather than later? Potentially yes, but that does still imply the same sort of pivot point right here, in line with the 786, which is our last our last higher low, if you consider it that. Somewhere right around here at about 17, or sorry, not 17.6, 18.7. Wow, my dyslexia really fucking my bunghole this morning. Apologies for that. but my point is that, hey, as long as we're kind of hanging out within this region right here, technically speaking, yes, that would be a bullish reclamation formation, and it is, bias to the upside. Of course, I do want to see an actual official closure on a 4-hour dildo above 19,550. If we can get that right here, yes, I would essentially be looking for the next sort of melt up phase. We would have a measured move based off this formation right here, which would be pointed all the way up to the 2.272. So good confluence right there. Once again, that's right below 23,000. There would be areas of interest, of course, well before that, the 1.414 at about 20,500 or just under there, and then the 2 spot right here, right around just above 22,000 as well. So that's what I'd be looking for if Bitcoin does blast above the top side, of which over time, probably even sometime this month, I would be looking for it to do that. But again, am I just going to blindly enter in this area right here because that is, on the menu? Absolutely not. As a trader, I need to be thinking in terms of entry, position management, and risk management. If I just enter right here, where's my risk management going to be? Do I manage risk under our last prior low right here? Well, that doesn't really make too much sense because we can come all the way back down to last week's open and still remain overall bullish. Maybe it does make sense to manage risk there, but is it optimal? Fuck no, it's not. We're trading in the middle of a goddamn range right here. There's no real reason, in my opinion, or at least in my system, I do not, I'm not interested in a trade in the middle of the range. I'm interested in a trade on the peripheries here. That means this area right here or this area right here for the short term. However, in this case, I would really like to get a trade at last week's open, to be fair. But let's see, does that line up with anything else? Remember that last week's open was about 18,200. Well, that sounds actually rather familiar now, doesn't it? Because guess where the 618 Fibonacci retracement is right here. Oh, is that 18,250? Yes, indeed it is. What if we look at the daily? I'm curious to see if there's anything major coming in around that region. Oh, is that the daily 21 exponential average? Yes, indeed it is. Now I'm not necessarily saying that Bitcoin has to come back down around there, especially just looking at the daily right here. It looks like it just wants to fucking blast itself off right now. I mean, we actually just got some hidden bullish divergence here too, which is, did that already play out? I mean, even if you've hindsight traded, yeah, you did get about a $300 to $400 move. So fair enough. My point is that, I'm interested in a trade down here. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get it down there, but that's where I like my risk reward setup because it would be very easy to manage risk. Below 18.2, I get the fuck out and, likely look for a move down about another $1,000 to the downside at low 17. If we put back on our drawing tools right here, we see that all of these areas are kind of aligned and further solidified by major fibs. We got the 618, obviously at the area that we just spoke about. We got the 0.5, although I don't think that this would be relevant for much of anything, to be honest with you, except for like a short-term bouncy bounce. And then we got the 382, which would be your mid 17,000, definitely a potential reversal point. And then also the 236 down here as well. And the 200 simple and 200 exponential average for the 4 hour are really starting to travel their way up incredibly aggressively, nearly towards the 382 right there. Which is really interesting here. And credit to Ro, or sorry, no, it wasn't Ro. Although I should give credit to Ro for last week's call. That was fucking epic on Twitch, by the way. I forgot to call you out and give Pena the business, but that was fucking epic. No, who was it? It was EO. Yes, EO. It's like the 2-letter names, man. They're difficult. But EO actually called this out yesterday that the 200 simple and 200 exponential average on the 4 hour, when they do cross, we actually typically do see kind of a pullback in these more aggressive uptrends. Last time that we saw something like this was actually back on over here, and it doesn't necessarily happen immediately, but typically speaking, when we actually do see them cross, well, a little bit of pressure on the other side, albeit within the context of the greater trend, to be fair. Same thing over here, 200 simple cross the upside of the 200 exponential average. And you know this to be true as well, because the 200 simple is going to be less reactive than an exponential, obviously. So that means that if the simple is getting above the exponential, then the trend is kind of, losing a little bit of momentum, losing a little bit of strength. And we see the same thing over here, comes down to test both of them, buoyed back up, good. Works the other side as well. This one actually does kind of suck back in price action, if you will. This one over here actually calls the last prior high, and this one actually does get a full-on reversal. But my point is that actually when we do see those two interact in the past, we typically do see a little bit of a pullback into that region. Not a death sentence for the rally. In fact, I'd look at this as a major opportunity if Bitcoin did get back down around there. So I do want to remain a little bit alerted here. So while I am overall bullish on Bitcoin, does that mean I'm just immediately bullish on Bitcoin? No, at least as a trader, no. I'm generally bullish on Bitcoin, yes. However, the question is, do we just green dildo it from here, or do we come a little bit further down first and then try a little bit of a green dildo party? By the way, shout out to all the crypto grannies out there, because I've just been enlightened by our good friend in the Discord. I believe who was it? It was Cave Drew. Yeah, that's him. he wrote in the Discord yesterday, Krown, you've been talking about these crypto grannies, and it's funny because I actually happen to know an older woman. She's maybe in her 60s. She's got a thick southern drawl, and she apparently is in crypto too. She got goxed like 10 years ago. Sorry, not funny, but sucks. And I was talking to her about crypto, and she says that she watches Ivan on Tech, and then I told her that I watch Krown's Crypto Cave and asked if she's heard of you, and she said, "Oh my, that boy has a very foul mouth." And my world is fucking blown, man. What the hell? And you know what? If you are listening out there, crypto grandma, I actually really appreciate you just listening, just giving it a try. I'm not even mad that you don't that it's not for you. It's all good, it's all good. Ivan on Tech, he's great. He's a good friend. And fair enough. But I can't really change my language. It's just a lazy way of expressing myself. I don't mean anything by it. But you know what? We probably have more in common than we don't. Seeing as you're in crypto, seen as you're in crypto and maybe even a trading grandma, which is actually pretty fucking cool. But yeah, definitely a lesbian. So, couldn't help myself there, crypto grandma. I'm trying to be respectful right now, but again, sincere thank you. Anyways, so yes, looking at this right here, it's more or less the same thing as what we've been saying for the last week and a half. Do we get a pullback first, or is it green dildo time to the heavens? And speaking of historic volatility percentile, look at this. We have quite this signal going on right here. Now, we did identify a contraction phase that has been getting increasingly aggressive over the last over the last week or so, going back from late November right here. I'm just to draw a nice little regression in this region, and what do you know, we are hitting multiple zero reads down into the single digits, actually even literally a zero read on the last two right there. And I would be looking at this to likely produce a move, a pretty significant move, seeing as this is based off the 4 hour in the next, what are we on, the 7th? Yeah, on the next day. In the next, anytime between the 8th and 9th, extreme likelihood of a very, 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 very big move here. Now, in the context of this current price action, that would either equate to a break above the top side of the range right here, which would be 19,550. Or if it does, or if that expansion does come to the downside, that's where I really do think not only 18,250 would be hit. Perhaps we even get 17.5 or 17,150. I'd probably gun for 17.5 if anything. But fair enough. My point is that we are going to be looking at a move sooner rather than later here. And looking at momentum oscillators, I'm curious what the 4 hour would say right now. 4 hour Stoch's actually nice and healthily erect there, so fair enough. 4 hour RSI is still constructive and sideways, as we've been saying. Still filling out the neutral zone, but that's completely fine. I look at that as overall good over the long period of time. Jules not giving me no signals right there. Not giving me no signals. Great fucking English, Krown. 3 hour, we're seeing basically the same thing, except a little bit more evolved here. We see 3 hour Stoch's actually getting in the same areas as well. Now we do have this trend line coming in right here, right around the edge of the bullish control zone, but not really a death sentence in and of itself. Same thing on Joule, no signals. Same thing on 3 hour RSI, constructive sideways. Want to see if it actually gets back into the bullish control zone here. That would be the next big, short-term big signal in my opinion. And 3 hour historical volatility percentile, same signature here as well. We are contracting over the long period of time and looking for resolution probably within these next 48 hours of trading. And that's just a likelihood, right? Like it could technically happen, just right fucking now. I mean, why not? It's just extremely likely once we get to that region. So basically it's big old red lights flashing all day for the next 48 hours, I would say, from now. Moving on to the buy hourly right here, what do we see? Buy hourly Stoch's nice and up and at them right now as well. So 2, 3, and 4 hour all on the same side. Same thing on buy hourly RSI. Same thing right here as well. In fact, this one suggesting that we probably get even a short-term move today. In fact, today, maybe even within the next few hours. And hourly doing the same thing as well, actually expanding from an incredibly low read right here too. So I would be looking for that to well, in this case, I mean, everything's kind of pointed up right here, to be fair, except for the hourly Stoch's, which are technically down right now. But I'm curious what would be needed to turn them back onto the upside. With Caretaker's new magic over here. 19.4 would actually put it back onto the upside, 19.450 to be exact. So fair enough right there. Anyways, adding everything together, it would look like Bitcoin gearing up for a move this week. And while I am overall bullish, I would certainly like to see another test to the downside, and I'd be defensive towards another test to the downside. But most importantly, I'd look at that as an opportunity. So that's kind of the case that I'm constructing right now. 12 hour looks very good here too. I mean, here's the thing, when I look at the 12 hour and daily, this looks like it wants to go to the upside now. Okay, I shouldn't say now, but what I mean by that is that it doesn't really look like it wants to pull back here, to be fair. And if it does, even the 10 simple probably does have a little bit of a pull there. But let's actually go through the momentum oscillators here first before we judge it. 12 hour Stoch's coming down healthily right now, but let's see what's going to be needed to bring them back onto the upside. And what do you know? Any sort of a closure above the last closing high right here within this range, which is actually 19,450, will do it. Or actually, technically, it's 19,522 right there. Close enough is close enough. Still around that 19,550-ish region that I did kind of outline earlier over the past week as that next continuation point to the upside. So overall, still we're seeing a lot of things in confluence with each other, because that would suggest that if Bitcoin does close above that region on the next 12-hour closure, not only will we break structure to the upside, but we'll also see momentum turn to the upside once again on a momentum oscillators on basically all time frames up to a 12-hour, and this would also be rejecting getting out of the bearish, or sorry, out of the bullish control zone, meaning that it stays within, meaning that looks good, bro. Looks good. Anyways, 12-hour RSI sideways is constructive here. Good, nice. It's, you know, it's not really having like a threatening move, but overall, overall fine as long as it kind of oscillates within that region. And HVP right here is really falling off the cliff as we identified over the weekend. So that is playing into the greater narrative that we're looking at. Looking at the daily, what do we see? Daily Stokes still up. What would be needed to actually bring these babies down is a real question. Oh wow. Oh, this is very interesting right here. So actually, that is actually very, very interesting. As long as we're above 18,950 by the closure, we will actually see these continue upwards and onwards. So we're basically going to see all time frames momentum oscillators to the upside while they're approaching the top side of the range. Do we have potential to actually break this today? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. In fact, Jesus, man, this can get fucking crazy. All right, well, good thing I'm streaming today then. All right, sweet. What else do we see on daily RSI? A little bit of hidden bullish divergence right there. Fair enough. You know, we kind of did get a move to the top side of the short-term range here. You know, maybe that extends a little bit more towards 19.7. You kind of get my point, though. Basically looking good. Anyways, what about the 2-day right here? What do we see? We do see 2-day Stokes curling around. Do they use the critical zone as a bounce territory? Well, typically we do see some like that actually. So let's see what would be needed to cross them to the upside. Oh, what do you know? If you guessed 19,500, you're fucking right. And guess what? If we do see this signature in the past, a lot of the time we do see that the critical zone actually will bounce it. You see several examples in 2017 run right here where Bitcoin spends, you know, months within the critical zone and puts in rallies, you know, multi-$1,000 rallies while it's in that region. So just because it's in that region is not a bad thing. I actually look at that as a powerful thing. It's when it actually starts to come back down below that region when I do look for a potential end to that run. And 3-day is going to be closing, I believe, tonight. Let's double check this. Yes, indeed it is. 3-day closing at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'd say any sort of a closure here or higher is going to look really fucking good for further continuation like now. And we do see that historical volatility percentile on the 3-day is going to have a chance to actually get a positive slope on the moving average, which is already expanding from a 0 read. And that could be the next big signal to really align with a phenomenal move. I mean, even when we didn't necessarily have the best of the best signal right here, we actually did see a pretty phenomenal move from about 9,000 to 12,500 just based off that. Over here, we do see a phenomenal move from 10,000 to 4,000. This would actually be a perfect signature right there, as it does play with it almost to the T. Same thing over here from the move from 4,000 to 14,000, and same thing over here from the move from 6,000 to 3,000. So we are looking at a very, 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 very big move, aligning pretty much all of the time frames now, suggesting that expansion is going to occur probably sooner rather than later, now that we see that the low term timeframes are essentially on the same side as the high term timeframes. So that is what we're traditionally looking for. And as it stands right now, I don't really have any real reason to be going against a trend here, as it is and has been our friends for quite some time. Okay, cool. So I've probably spoken your head off already 28 minutes. Let's go check out traditional markets. Are they bullish as fuck as well? I think we're looking for new all-time highs coming in this weekend. Oh my God, we already have new all-time highs. How could this? It's off the fucking charts. How could it be this crazy? Yeah, weekly Stokes the upside. Weekly RSI tells a story here, though. Just getting back into the bullish control. Sorry, I can't speak. This is a very good signature right here. Yeah, I'd be looking for new all-time highs on top of this, still with an overall target maybe over the next month or two towards just above $13,000 based off the fib extension right there, and also the measure move looking good. So if I'm looking for new all-time highs on NASDAQ futures, does that mean that I might be looking for new all-time highs on Bitcoin? I don't know. That seems to have been the trend for quite some time now. I wonder if that's going to change. It's definitely going to change. This time is different. SPY futures, same shit. Target above is like 3750. Nice. Everything playing well with each other. What about Link? Let's go check out Link. And here's the next big one that I really want to keep an eye on. Obviously, it's not trading right now because it doesn't have futures, but MicroStrategy. So we'll be looking at this one a lot more, but it's obviously not relevant like exactly at this moment. Link. again, going to do whatever Bitcoin. Why do I keep on looking at this thing? It's going to do whatever Bitcoin does, albeit a lot less strong, though, as you can see right here. If Bitcoin does take a leg to the downside, I would be looking for a move down towards 10.5 to, yeah, about 10.5 bucks. And that would be a major opportunity here. I am long-term bullish on this one as well. Monthly is good. Short-term, I mean, short-term is kind of downtrending right there. So to be fair, yeah, I mean, if anything, I'd probably be looking for it to come back down to 12.5. But fair enough, you know, Bitcoin's looking, whatever Bitcoin does, this one will mirror. Okay, what else do we got? Link BTC still on the lows. I'd be looking for it to brush up against the lows once again. 66,000. Death cross is impending, and if that does happen, I'd extend targets down towards 53,000 satoshis. Not looking good on the satoshi pairing, by the way, as we identified earlier with the rotations for altcoins. Not looking too good actually with their Bitcoin pairing. Same thing on Cardano. I believe that this is just your next lower high right here, getting ready for another move back down towards 600 satoshis and probably the full retracement further over time. What about Mr. Buteral? I want to look at Mr. Buteral versus Bitcoin first. Where are you, sir? There you are. I found you. Same thing right here. Looks like it is getting ready for another downside move. Well, no, I could be wrong about this one. I can be very wrong about this one, actually. I will reserve judgment on this one. I do not have a call here. No call. There's no call. There's no fucking call. And if Buteral, you know, Greendale's way here to the upside, it's like, can you be bearish in the other ones? No, you can't. But the other ones do look a lot more obvious, to be fair. What about Buteral versus Bitcoin? Looks very similar to Bitcoin. This one looks a little bit more obviously like an ascending triangle at the highs, so we could make a measure move based off of this. I'll do really fucking annoying one right here. Something like this would be about right. Let's see what it lines up with. And 715 or so. Looking good right there. Also in line with historical pivot right here, as you do see, coming in from this major meltdown, also this big breakout right here. Good confluence, and I imagine that we probably do have something resembling a fib extension in that region as well. Let's go see. Let's go see what we have. Where's my fib extension, you fuck? There we go. All right, and if you call your indicators you fuck, then they listen and work better. Let's actually do this right though. Okay, let's get the top side of the range right here. Let's get the bottom side right there. And what do you know? The choose spot, as it should be, is right in alignment with it. Nice one. Okay, great. Awesome. Good. That's phenomenal. Again, you know, if Bitcoin does take a leg to the downside first, I'd be looking for a major opportunity somewhere around like 550-ish region. All right, on to Bitcoin. On to Bitcoin, sir. Okay, so do we want to wrap this bitch up now? I think we do. We should wrap her up and send her off. All right, let's start it back off over here. Okay. Let's wrap this bitch up, sir. Okay, so weekly closure for weekly closure for spot price action, very powerful right here. Closing above the top side shoulder band once again. Bitcoin still trending on the weekly, as we did already see confirmed on CMEs on Friday. Spot price action following through as well, which a little bit more formality. However, this would imply that further continuation on the upside is very, very likely from this region. The question now becomes, as it has been over the last week and a half, how far does Bitcoin pull back, if at all, first before trying some more upside? Well, I think the last week's open would be a very obvious target for that, about 18,200, as we defined over here on the 4 hour. That is the 618 Fibonacci retracement, which would be a little bit of a quite a nice area, as it also does align with the daily 20-minute exponential average coming in right here as well on that higher low structure. So if those conditions are met, yes, I do look at that as an opportunity. Doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, but it does offer up a nice risk reward. And more importantly, if Bitcoin actually does break below the 786 right here at about 18,700, destroys the higher low structure on the 4 hour time frame, then yes, I would be looking for at the very least 18,200 or 18,250 to get hit, and that could be that would have potential to be the next, you know, higher low within the structure before the next try to the upside, of which I would be targeting into actually the $22,000, $23,000 region right here if Bitcoin does break above the top side liquid zone at about 19,550 on a 4 hour total closure. Preferably want to see a higher term time frame than that, but you know, would you want to use 19,550 if you're aggressive, or 19,700 if you're conservative? That's up to you. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. However, if Bitcoin does fail the 18,250 test, you know, now we're getting like way ahead of ourselves, then I would look essentially down towards the 382, not the 0.5. This one would very likely be irrelevant except for a short-term bounce. It'd be the 382 would be the next one, as it's kind of worn out its welcome within this region. If it does want to pull back, it will likely gun for the lower targets. As we identified earlier, whenever Bitcoin does approach and break prior all-time highs, typically it does enter into a little bit of a melt-up phase after that. only once out of, I believe it was 5 attempts have we seen it actually do this. But the last time that we actually did see this happen, Bitcoin did actually pull back relatively aggressively here at about 35%. So it is still a possibility, yes. But for the most part, the general knowledge is when we do close on new weekly all-time highs and even monthly new all-time highs as well, the pullbacks are to be bought. And in this case right here, I don't really have any real reason to be looking at it any other way. And in that case, I suppose I'll let the chips fall where they may. Other than that, do I want to say anything else? Yeah, basically the same structure that we've been looking at, for the last week. 18.7 to the downside on a 4-hour closure, 2 hour below 18.650 to the upside, 19.550. I'd probably look at its resolution. I'd preferably like to see a 12-hour above there, but 4-hour probably does it as well. If you want to be conservative, 19.7, a little bit better. However, less better of an entry, but areas of interest to the upside would still be at the 1.414 for a short term at 20,500, and more long term down the road, I'd be looking for things to travel up to anywhere between the 2 spot and the 2 spot 272 right here. Technically speaking, measure move pointed towards just under 23,000. So with that said, I'd like to wish you the best. I'll be on Twitch a little bit later. Take care, and until next time.